everyone, and welcome to One Civil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. Today's video is a strange one because I want to share what I guess will classify as a dream I had last night when I was asleep. But it was a very weird dream, and I've never had anything like it. And so I want to describe what it was like. So, first thing was I could feel my eyes moving rapidly around inside my head. So, presumably, I'm in REM sleep, which makes sense because that's also the time I was dreaming. But I could actually consciously feel my eyeballs moving around inside my skull, like moving very fast, which I not normally I don't normally feel that sensation. And what I experienced was essentially like shredded paper, like if like in a micro cut shredder where it's cross cut, but maybe like really small pieces of paper. And the pieces of paper would have like parts of an image or parts of a letter, or maybe a letter and a little bit more, because they're not very big pieces of paper, like they've been put through a shredder. And at any given time in when I was experiencing this, there might be dozens of these sheets of paper, for lack of a better description, or maybe there were hundreds of them. It was kind of hard to count because everything was happening so fast. The pieces of paper would all be sort of they would all fit together nicely, like they were falling together like almost like a waterfall sort of. So though the pieces of paper were not related, they were fitting together and sort of moving towards the center of my image, the center of my vision, as best as I could tell. Although it was even more scattered, so it was not quite consistent. But anyway, so on each of these small pieces of paper that were in my vision, there was like a letter or a small or parts of a letter, like from a piece of paper, or like very small parts of an image. And at any time, there were dozens or hundreds of these things, and each piece of paper, for lack of a better description, they weren't really pieces of paper. They were just about that size in my perspective vision. Each of these would have a different image or a different letter on them. And the flow of the letters and the images changing was very, very rapid. So it was like as fast as my eyes could move inside my skull, the images were changing inside my brain. It would be like a different letter, and they seemed to be roughly flowing towards the center of my vision, although there were things that were decaying even on the periphery, so it wasn't like a consistent pattern. Anyways, it was really, really weird. And so, and it also felt like I could recognize, or that all the pieces of paper were familiar. I couldn't remember what any of them were from because the images were flashing so fast before my mental vision that I couldn't remember any one of them. And I couldn't really focus on any one of them because they were there for, the briefest fraction of a second. They were there, like the images were changing in my brain at a rate of probably something on the order of, like 15 times a second or something. It was not smooth enough to be a continuous image like a dream would be, but it was just rapidly changing, and you could detect the change. So it was changing at like 10 frames a second or 15 frames a second or something like that, and the images would change, and each one of them seemed familiar, like I had seen them before. Now I couldn't tell you from where or when, but they all seemed familiar. And the sensation I felt that I was having was like I could feel my brain literally being rewired in real time, because that's sort of what it felt like. It felt like my mind was pulling these segments or these little pieces of fractions of memories from wherever they would come from, and just putting them all together as they were just searching. It felt like my brain was being rewired in real time. It was an incredibly trippy experience. So I don't know if anyone's ever had a dream like that, but it was certainly unique for me. I don't normally remember my dreams. I don't normally remember anything. And when I do remember things, they tend to be, much more in the can of remembering a whole image as a TV image or a movie or something like that. I've never had this sort of scattered shot kaleidoscope sort of impact before. And it was really, really weird. And it was actually quite pleasurable, but also it just felt like my eyes were moving so fast inside my skull that it actually was like hurting because my muscles were moving, the muscles of my eye were moving so fast, it kind of hurt. So it was this really weird, trippy experience where I could feel my eyes darting around and I was conscious and I could have woken myself up, but I didn't want to because I kind of wanted to enjoy the ride. So I didn't really have, I was aware of what was going on. So it's sort of like a lucid dream, but I didn't really have control because I didn't want to. I guess I decided, for lack of a better description, assuming one can make decisions in REM sleep, but I decided to let the experience just happen. It was super, super trippy. So I've never had anything happen like that, but it felt like my brain was, it felt sort of like my brain was being defragmented. If anyone's ever been around computers long enough and actually seen a like Windows do a defragment of a computer drive where it selects like a piece of the drive and it moves it around to a different piece of the drive and stuff like that as it's trying to put the files together, it kind of felt like a defragmentation looks in sort of how it felt in my brain. It felt like different pieces of memory were being selected and filtered and moved around to different parts of my brain. And it was an incredibly trippy experience. So I guess we'll classify this as Kurt's experience with his mind being defragmented by itself. I don't know if anyone's ever had an experience ever like that before, but it was certainly a unique phenomena. I can't recall ever having any experience sort of like that. So I don't know what that was. And it was incredibly trippy. Yeah, sounds like acid or shrooms. Yeah, it sounds like what people who have used DMT say it feels like. I've heard people describe DMT before, and it sounds like, because they say they see these like images that are like kaleidoscopes in their mind, or kaleidoscopes in their images, these sort of patterns that are like a kaleidoscope. But it was more, but the patterns from DMT, as I understand them, are, patterns like a kaleidoscope, but this was more detailed than a kaleidoscope. It was in the style of a kaleidoscope, I suppose, but each of the things had content on them rather than just being nice images or a nice pattern. They each had letters or photos or videos or pictures that seemed familiar, like they were coming from somewhere inside my mind, which I suppose they had to be because I was asleep. Where else could they possibly be coming from? They had to be coming from my mind, right? So, of course, they would seem familiar, I guess, because they had to be coming from my mind because I was asleep at the time. So, where else could they be coming from? So, I suppose it's not surprising I found from familiar, even though if I couldn't tell you where any of them came from because they were changing so fast. Yeah. See the movie Enter the Void? Never seen the movie before. Do I take melatonin? No, I don't take melatonin. I did take what's it called? Mm, I do take medication to help me sleep, but it's prescription, and I'm having a tough time remembering what it is right now. Um, they can prescribe up to 300 milligrams of it. I typically take 100 milligrams, and I can't quite remember what it's called right now. But I use this medication to help me sleep. Was it nice? It was different. It was pleasant. It felt like a lot of work. It was really trippy. Trazodone was the medication I was looking for. So I had taken 100 milligrams of Trazodone. So, but I take Trazodone all the time and don't normally have a experience like that. Yeah. So it was weird. Yeah. So I don't know. It was just a weird, trippy dream. And I was thinking about it because I was just sitting around at my computer and, moving my eyes as one does is looking at different things on the screen. And my eyes were starting to hurt. And it created a sense memory because my eyes were hurting the same way in my brain last night. So it's like a memory recall of this thing that happened. So, and I thought I'd share it with you. Do I miss the dream? Not really, because the dream didn't really make any sense in the first place. It was just an interesting experience. It was like a high. I mean, it was like being high. My only experience with being high is with um you know um the medication I was on previously for depression. So that was, yeah, maybe electrolytes. I don't know what was going on there. The one that Maya was on, and named, I can't remember anything. It's pretty funny right now. I can't remember, but I haven't taken that medication in quite a long time. I haven't taken that medication in months. So I don't think that was it. Ketamine, thank you. Yeah. So it was sort of the only experience that I was on that was similar was ketamine. And because um ketamine, I had an experience that was similar, although it was less visual than what I had last night. But ketamine, I had a very similar sense of these recalls of memories, but it was not as visually real as what happened last night. Last night was much more visually real. When I was on ketamine, I was having these experiences where I would remember something and then I would jump like 2 or 3 degrees of separation to a different concept that was related like 2 or 3 steps down. But it was much less visual. It was more like an impression of a sense of a feeling, rather than last night where I was literally seeing things dance before my eyes. It was pretty weird. So yeah. So I thought I'd just to share this experience. So if you've ever had an experience that's like this, let me know, because I felt like I could feel my brain being rewired, and it was really really trippy. It was satisfying, if a little bit weird. I don't know that I necessarily want to do it again, but it was strange. So I thought I'd share. Okay, that's all I have to share with you, because I thought I'd just share this experience with you, and I'll sign off for now. So I will see you another time. Until later, my friends, I hope all is well. Cheers, my friends, for now, and goodbye.